You read the title. The emergency therapy session begins right now. Let's talk a little bit about it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I want to be a fighter, like you.
Oh, let it burn! Let it burn!
Did you miss me?
You have to shoot them in the head. They always come back.
The boat can leave now. Tell the crew.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Good luck.
Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and today I don't even have horror movies, man. Although Sony announced just this past December that they had already greenlit the third entry in the 28 Years Later franchise, it seems they have backpedaled. World of Real shares with us that their sources over at Sony have reported that the company is in no rush to finish this trilogy, especially after Bone Temple belly flopped at the box office. The Nia DaCosta directed sequel was made for a reported $63 million budget and barely made back $57 million worldwide. Ouch. This is, and I say this with no hyperbole, a fucking catastrophe. We are left on a massive cliffhanger here that may not get resolved. The really fucked up and funny part about this too is that this isn't the first time this has happened to the series. We were left on that Paris cliffhanger at the end of Weeks for 18 years, and they kind of just retconned it with that title card at the beginning of 28 Years Later. This series is a roller coaster, dude. Sadly, there are a few reasons outside of the poor box office performance of the last film that this new movie isn't exactly being rushed into production. Sony hasn't had too many hits at the box office lately, with more popular flops such as Morbius and Kraven the Hunter over their rare hits like the Venom franchise or the recently released GOAT that is currently in theaters. You also have to think the big sell for 28 Years Later Part 3 was that Cillian Murphy's Jim would return to the series, and director Danny Boyle even told franchise fans back over a year ago now that Jim's story would continue at the end of Bone Temple. Fans already had that incentive going into the sequel, and they still didn't show up. Sony's looking at that and saying, well, your big sell for Part 3 isn't even bringing people to the theaters for Part 2. Why would they show up for another one? On top of the 28 Years Later directors sweetening the pot there, the studio greenlit the third film, once again giving some positive affirmation to this series that was in some divisive territory from longtime fans, especially after the release of the first Years movie. 28 Years Later is a very weird film. I love it, but I totally understand why it's polarizing. Even though I do really like the film, I think Bone Temple is better. It's just a little more fluid with all of its ideas, where you go back and you watch 28 Years Later and it feels a little disjunct. Maybe my biggest criticism of the flick. Even with that nostalgic boost at the end, getting to hear the original 28 Days Later theme, especially played over the credits, wasn't that an awesome moment? Oh my god, Bone Temple rocked! It still didn't get enough people back to the theaters after they were disappointed in 28 Years Later back this past summer. The biggest complaint I hear about these two movies is that they focus too much on the themes of this franchise rather than the actual infected violence that drew them to this series in the first place. I just don't agree with that at all. I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I think these two movies have been terrifying, have some of the scariest moments from the entire franchise, and the number one scariest thing I've ever seen in one of these flicks is easily the shit with the Jimmies in the middle of Bone Temple. Giving charity? Fuck that shit, man. The rumor mill is telling us that Danny Boyle is fighting to get this one made with a theatrical release. I guess Netflix is also interested in picking it up. Danny Boyle is not interested in that offer though. This is supposed to be Cillian Murphy's time to shine again in the franchise. You know, we're bringing back legacy characters now. This is a movie that needs to be in theaters. Also, with Jim having a daughter now, that kind of lends itself to Selena possibly coming back for Part 3, which I would literally get on my hands and knees and kiss Danny Boyle's shoes if he did that. Now, the good news is that these are just rumors, but they're likely true too. You gotta think about it from Sony's perspective. The first 28 Years Later was just barely profitable. It just barely crossed that line, and then Bone Temple didn't even make its budget back. On paper, it doesn't make sense to make Part 3, but at the same time, the fans are going to revolt. We are left on a massive cliffhanger, one that I think is even crazier than the Paris cliffhanger at the end of Weeks. There's so much story that needs to be resolved, so many loose ends we still have to continue. Will we ever know if Samson's knowledge of a cure will spread across the British Isles? Will Spike's dad ever find his son and confront him about that zombie baby he left at the village? And for the love of God, will Selena come back to the franchise? Questions that I need answers to. Also, like, are Spike and Kelly okay? Last time we saw them, they were being chased by the infected. Look, if these rumors are true, and they likely are, I really hope that Danny Boyle keeps fighting to get this third chapter made. And maybe the biggest thing that needs to be said right now is not to compromise his vision. Because let's be honest, sure, the studio might not want to keep going with Chapter 3 because the movies didn't make money, but the real reason Chapter 3 might be off the table is because there's a lack of interest from the fans. Why is that, you might ask? Well, some people really wanted a mindless zombie action movie. But if you go back and you watch 28 Days Later, and even 28 Weeks, there's a lot of thoughtfulness. There's such rich themes about how the world deals with awful situations in other countries. That's what this franchise has always been about. 28 Years Later just kind of expanded upon that and kind of brought it up front and center a little more than the other flicks. Obviously, a mindless zombie action flick would have made more money, but there's something really rich and thematic about these two films. There's something here that you just wouldn't get from something like a World War Z. If Danny Boyle and Alex Garland were to bend the knee now and say, yep, we'll just make a movie that we know the fans will love, that will not feel like a satisfying ending to this trilogy. Talk about a square peg in a round hole, man. I mean, there has been so many really interesting themes and characters explored dealing with a really awful situation, to then just go into like mindless action, you know, shooting a bunch of zombies kind of territory. That's just not how you end this story. Would that movie make way more money? Of course it would, especially starring Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris. But man, more than anything, I want to see these guys finish the story that they want to tell, because I am so locked into this. Bone Temple might be my new favorite sequel, and I need answers to where this thing is going. I have a million theories, which I've already done some videos on this page about, and I need to know if I'm right or not. So I beg you, Sony, if you're watching this, please give us a chapter 3. Please keep this thing greenlit. I need to see it. My head is actually going to explode. You wouldn't want that to happen, would you? It'll be like Scanners in here. My fiance will have to clean it up. It'll be awful. Real quick before we end this video, we have a brand new Stab collection over at the merch store. Guys, these are only going to be in the shop until March 2nd, so go pick them up while you can. They look sick as fuck. Also, just to throw my 2 cents in there, this is probably my favorite collection at the whole store. I'm a little biased here. I love the Stab like look, the green. Ooh, it's great. Go pick it up. You guys already know I'm getting that dad hat. I need it.
I need it!
Also, I'm wearing a Scream shirt today. Shout out to Scream666, because we were supposed to do the Scream 4 reaction video. That is still happening. It's coming out tomorrow now. I literally just filmed it. So stay tuned. That one comes out tomorrow now. You will still see the Scream 5 and 6 reactions on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. So what do you guys think? Will 28 Years Later Part 3 get made? Will it have a cool subtitle, just like the Bone Temple? Let me know down in the comments below. Old Jake is here if you need a shoulder to cry on. I think I need one too. Thank you all so much for watching. I will keep you updated if anything changes in regards to 28 Years Later Part 3. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.